On my left, we have restaurant-style enchiladas with a very tomatoey forward sauce topped with melty cheese and usually filled with some meat. On my right, we have authentic Mexican-style enchiladas, a humble tortilla dipped in a very chili-forward sauce, usually filled with cheese, topped with even more cheese, lettuce, and crema. And in the middle, we have my beautifully balanced hybrid Enchiladas Rojas. Personally, I dislike most restaurant-style Enchiladas Rojas because they're too tomatoey, too much cheese.
Yes. Oh my God.
And overall, just mid. I prefer the more chili-forward enchiladas, but I understand most people like those restaurant-style enchiladas, so I made some a bit more balanced. Now let's get started. Always start with what takes the longest, and in this case, it's the meat. I'm making mine out of shredded beef, and I'm using 2 pounds of chuck roast. Cut the chuck roast into 2 to 3 inch cubes, season generously with salt, and set a Dutch oven to medium-high heat. Here we're gonna give our meat a good sear, and a couple tips to help you get a good sear on your meat are, first you're gonna make sure that your pan is hot enough, and you're gonna pat dry your meat with a couple paper towels, and use enough oil. Make sure not to overcrowd your pan, because that will lower the temperature of your pan and your meat will end up steaming instead of searing. Get a good hard sear on all sides. Once all seared, throw in 4 cups of water, 6 Guajillo, and 4 Pasilla Chiles. Make sure to take off the top and de-seed them before throwing them in though. I threw in half an onion, but that was because I had it in my fridge already. But it's not necessary. I tried it with and without, and there was basically no difference. Bring that up to a simmer, put the lid on, and throw that in a 300-degree oven. And that's gonna take around 3 to 4 hours, depending on how big you cut the meat. You can also do this in a pressure cooker. It'll take about an hour and a half, but I do prefer the slow cooking method. It comes out tastier and juicier. The pressure cooked way comes out tender, but kind of has a drier texture to it. While that's cooking, you have no excuse not to make your own tortillas. And if you want a step-by-step tutorial, I have a very good in-depth video, and I'll put that in the description. But once you have those, put them to the side and keep them warm. You can use store-bought tortillas here, and I am giving you permission just this once because I tried them both ways and the homemade tortillas were a lot better, but I also liked the store-bought ones. I think it also might depend on the brand of tortillas that you get. Some of them really are just chalk dust. Checking up on our beef, you'll know it's done when it just falls apart, and when it's at that stage, take it out, put it in a bowl, and shred it up until your heart's content. But save the liquid and the chilies for the sauce we're about to use them. So for the sauce, we're gonna blend together 2 cans of diced tomatoes, 4 teaspoons of cumin, 4 teaspoons of Mexican oregano, all the chilies from the pot, and pretty much all the liquid. You're gonna have to use a little bit of your judgment here to decide how thin or thick you want the sauce. If you want it thinner, add a little bit more water. If you want it thicker, add a little less of the cooking liquid. I used all my cooking liquid and it was perfect for me. This batch that I'm making right now was half the recipe I just gave you, but it wasn't enough to cover all the enchiladas, and so I decided to double it for you guys because it's better to have too much sauce than not enough. So you're gonna blend that until it's smooth and season to taste. For assembly, you have 2 options, and it depends on if you're making a lot or a few. For the first one, you're gonna heat up your tortillas, and warm tortillas are better to roll without tearing. Add the beef, roll it, and place it seam side down in a casserole dish. Continue until you fill up the dish or you run out of meat. Next, you're gonna smother in sauce. Don't use all of it though. We're gonna add more when plating, and at this point you can decide whether to add cheese or not. Cover it in foil and bake it 15 to 20 minutes. Even if you don't add cheese, still bake it because this will meld everything together and warm everything up nicely. Alternatively, you can make this the more traditional way by taking tortilla and dipping it in the sauce and frying it, filling as you go, one by one, pretty much exactly how I made the enfrijoladas in my last video. Now dip your tortilla in the bean sauce.
Beans, what the fuck?
And throw that on the pan. Add your good melty cheese, a good helping of it. Let that melt and then place it on a plate. But you will need to thin out the sauce a little for this method. I don't add cheese because I don't think it's necessary, but if you can't stand the idea of enchiladas without cheese, then go ahead. To plate, smother that in your delicious sauce, drizzle with sour cream, and top with shredded lettuce my wife so kindly chopped up.
This bitch empty. Oh!
And there you have it, my enchiladas. I really tried not to overcomplicate it, not to add a ton of ingredients. It's pretty basic stuff, and I really enjoyed it. These are gonna be my go-to whenever I'm in the mood for enchiladas rojas. And if you like this video, please consider sharing it with a neighbor, a coworker,
a child.
It's never too early to start them. And until next time, thank you.